building material or building construction. So the first challenge I said in public procurement is this. Now we'll come to the second part of it. So this was only public procurement. The second is the private procurement part. Now, what is it that, what drives private procurement? Anyone? What drives a private procurement? Why would, as a builder, I would want to do a green building? One is profits, yes. What's the other thing? Certification, green FSI. Incentives. Again, I'll go back to that idea of incentives. So yeah, I think it actually starts with the profits, and build upon it is this other thing of incentives and certifications. But a very interesting thing that I've also learned over a period of time for most of the builders and private sector is their profit is a very easy thing to do, but what they are really interested in the long-term cash flows. Because any builder who dies in the sense who does not succeed, it's because of the cash flow problem. So how do you, so the second point is, another thing I'll take you from, as I said, taking cues from the previous speaker is always a good idea. He said a word, financial modeling. So what do you do in financial modeling? It's not only about that, okay, you build this building, this is the cash flow for the building. But how do you incorporate risk into the cash flows? So in fact, luckily we are having a Mumbai Climate Week in this Geo convention. I was giving a speech yesterday on this topic. And one thing I said yesterday was that we try to inbuild risk in the capital, which is much easier to do. How many of you, sorry, before I go there, how many of you know how to design financial flows? Financial structuring. Okay, so I'll just give a brief on that. It's very simple. Financial structuring is basically, you take anything, for a building, I'll give an example. You are making a building, you take the input costs, land, building, and then you take the revenues, how the revenues will come, and then how the debt will flow in and how the debt will be repaid, and then how the profits will be made over a period of time. So that basically is called a financial structuring, and then you take all of it into something called as a net present value. The NPV is what we call it. It's simple, it's in Excel, it's simple formulas in Excel. And from that net NPV, you get something called as a return. The IRR is what we call for the projects, the internal rate of return or whatever. But a new term that has just emerged with this newer things, which emerged in the financial markets first. So I don't know how many of you also invest. I mean, maybe you're too young to do it, but as you know, you age and you start having children, you start realizing it's important to invest. So when you look for investment, so there's an economic theory that I'll take the liberty of going till what time? 10:50. Okay. So, so when you are investing, there's a theory that in perfect markets, the return is always zero, because the return is adjusted against the opportunity cost. So there is a concept of risk-adjusted returns. So in an ideal market, the risk-adjusted return for your FD against the risk-adjusted return of your, that equity or project which is paying you 18% or 20% is actually same. So how do you build that risk-adjusted, return into the environmental, basically on the environmental risk? This a lot of people have started doing in the investment space. This we should start doing when we are trying to do the financial modeling of our projects. So I think this is the second lesson I will say. I will not go in more detail about the financial modeling because that is a very different and a very long topic. But I think these are the two major things that I have been looking at. So when you're looking at private procurements, we should look at how risk can be adjusted into the cash flows. I mean, that's the gist of this entire thing. So the moment you are able to do it, shift risk from capital flow to the cash flows. Second, build risk inherently into build the environment risk inherently into the economic risk, and that will actually come to that, and that is when, what is it that we are able to do as government? Why should we get into private procurement? Because that risk is what we should give out as incentives. So if you want to mitigate environment, if you are able to come out with a number, ki this is the kind of risk and this is the NPV of this environmental risk, right? Of this environmental risk, which this builder will have to undertake to take a project. So this can then be equated with the kind of incentives that government gives. Like this is where that FSI or TDR or other rights that we can give to the developer. So that is how we should be able to build on. So the first problem that I gave was about public procurement, providing measurable metrics. The second problem that I would actually give to all of you is that can you give quantitative values to environmental risks on the cash flows, which can then be equated to government incentives. So this is the second thing that if you are able to quantify, then you are able to succeed. And the third thing that he didn't use the word, but he said something called the BOT model and DBOT model. And so we've just come out with the PPP policy for Maharashtra. Like it was luckily written by Mitra only. He was one of the members of it. He's working under Ajay Saxena, who is a PPP expert. So now when you are trying to do PPP, the only thing which matters in PPP is cash flow. Everything is an assumption. But what's the second problem of PPP? Why PPP failed mostly? PPP is failed because we did not analyze two things. One is the inbuilt risk in the assumptions. So you might say कि यहाँ पे 100 गाड़ियाँ जाएंगी, but actually 50 गाड़ियाँ जाती हैं. And the other thing is over profiteering, because it's all this thing. कल अगर 100 की जगह 500 गाड़ी जाने लगे, and people will come on the streets and say this guy just fleeced the government, this public money. So both these things can be resolved when you are able to give that quantifiable number against which the incentives can be ring fenced. So when you ring fence it, then you are able to overcome both these challenges. So that is my second thing. Now regarding that circular economy, I think this was mostly about buildings, but now I'll go very specific on the circular economy part. So the most important thing according to me is actually behavioral change. The best thing that you did, like in the morning, I think, is this. Start with basic small behavioral changes. And when you start doing it, you will start getting new ideas. What is this? This is a plastic bag, recycled plastic bag. Why is it important? Why is it important according to me? Because one of the problems that we do is that in our personal lives, we are okay with things, but we expect others to make that change. So, but the moment you start doing this in all these small things, start using these, wherever possible, start using less and start using recycled material. I think start using less is not a very good idea, because I somehow don't believe in it, because it has failed many times. The basic human nature of us is to consume more. We earn more, we consume more. So, some people are able to do it, but that's their self-control. But you cannot control human nature according to it. What you can really control is to, you've read Nudge. How many of you have read Nudge? It used to be a very famous book at our time. You've read it. So Nudge is about that, the economics of behavior. So one of the famous examples they used to give is that, organ donation in the Scandinavian countries was very low originally. And then they just changed one thing. Rather than they asking you to take it, whether you will donate organs, they asked you to untake it. So it went from something like 5 to 10% to something like 98, 99%. So these are very basic changes. So these behavioral changes, if you are able to incorporate, then I think a lot of the circular economy problems, we will start making that, seeing the change. What do I mean by that? let's say there is a conscious choice amongst you to take any, I mean, because you all become major decision makers in any furniture or any paper, or so would you rather go for something which is recycled or lower carbon rather than going for something which is cheap? So that is a cheap or something that you might like a lot more. Second is clothing. Whenever, I mean, a lot of us like to shop, right? So most of our shopping is into what? It's into clothing mostly. So can you start opting for those things? So what it does is, in the long run, it creates that demand for that circular economy. Currently, we are in the tipping point where, you know, waste has become gold in many ways, but still that idea of, you know, having that circular economy on a very sustainable private sustained private domain will actually come from that behavioral change. Now, why is it behavioral change so important, and why did I refer to it so many times? Is it's not that, you know, buying a bag or buying a book or buying a t-shirt which is recycled will make a lot of difference. What will make a difference is that when you are doing that thing, when you are in that zone, so then when you are making that decision of creating a city, let us say you are, then you will know the principles which are involved into creating that. So I think that is the third thing I'd like to just mention on the go. And I think the last, in fact, two last things that I would also want to touch upon is something which, I mean, which is which you are experiencing in Mumbai, but you will experience a lot of it in cities like Delhi, which are kind of become heat islands. It is, how do you do creative destruction? What do you mean by creative destruction? The creative destruction of cities is very, very important. Mumbai, I mean, we are all lucky to be in Mumbai because you have kind of sea at one place, and just overcoming a bit of regulation, you can actually make a new coastal road, right? So you get a way to exit. You don't get that in Delhi. So what happens is that you created a city for a certain transportation. You created a city for a certain, you know, set of population, and now I'm going from that building or individual building and now to the city point. So how do you redesign cities? So that is the most important question. So when we are looking at circular economy, the biggest challenge that comes is, how do you redesign the city? How do you redesign the transport system? How do you at the time of design it in such a way that it all aligns together? That is a big challenge for you in an ongoing manner. Why? We have this Mumbai metro which just came, and this is a problem that I was saying yesterday also. So let us say the alignment of Mumbai metro is from this place to this place, but why is, generally I'm saying, why is it that the government is able to get land to create a metro here? Well, this would be no development zone. But what happens is that when we are planning this metro, this remains a no development zone, and we are giving permissions here, all over the place. In the long run, you will end up in a situation where this alignment of this public transportation will not really match your development. So how do you inbuild that simulation? That is something that, sorry, sir, forgot. Professor Sharver was just telling me, if we can really redesign this alignment in a simulator. So we have just launched something called as energy policy simulator. We can also think of something like a transportation simulator or a developmental simulator, which will actually look at a city and say, okay, in the next 10 years, these are the kind of requirements which will emerge. And let us say it might take 10 years to build a public transportation, and it might take 4 to 5 years to make some kind of a office structure, or 3 to 4 years to make private buildings, residential buildings. So can we look at that 10-year, like additional 5-year gap that we get to kind of do a creative redistribution, or you can say a creative redevelopment, to move people from faraway zones to near zones, and shift FSIs from faraway zones to near the public transport zones? So that is one challenge that you can always think of. It's a very tough challenge. I don't think it's very easy to solve. But what we do currently is what I can say. Currently, we build the metro, and then we allow the private developers to actually come in and develop it in and around that area. But by the time, what has happened is ki you are not able to plan. What is planning? Planning means there should be schools and offices and reservations across the alignment. That doesn't happen, because when you just give it out to a private developer, what happens is, as a state also, you try to just maximize your own profits. And when you're trying to maximize your own profits, it will all go to a particular type of structure, maybe build housing, but your schools, your colleges, your offices, they don't really come by. So that is the other and the last problem that I just wanted you to think of in terms of both creative redistriction and the transport simulator. So with this, I think I have kind of overexceeded my time. So I would like to close my speech, but I just gave you a few pointers. What I would like after, I will be in touch, but I would like that, at the end of maybe this conference, or maybe at the end of whatever your timeline of this course is, you should be able to get at least some solutions coming out of it. And those who want to take up these as projects, they can always, we'll be in touch with you. We'll try to solve, you can give it as your problem statements, and we'll also try to get it funded from the state if required. I'll leave on that note. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure that the students in the audience and even the researchers in the audience are noting down the potential research opportunities that Aman Mittal has mentioned. Sir, I would also like to tell you that we do have a track, the separate track, which is looking at policy and the business opportunities related to circular economy. So there would be presentations based on those tracks. With that, we are concluding the inaugural session. We have reached, it's 10:45, it's almost, 10:57. So there would be tea served and there is a short break. So the tea is served on this side of the auditorium. After this, everybody is requested to report to the rooms that are assigned to them. So you all have received schedule in your kits. So one is this PC Saxena Auditorium, and the another one is the Vanavihar, for which we had shown the map for you to navigate. Yes. So we will start with the session by 11:15. Do not, so please be on time, because we have many papers planned for today. And we again gather here for lunch at 1 o'clock in the same premise. And yeah, with that, again, welcome everyone to the International Conference on Built Environment and Beyond, with a special focus on circular economy. And I hope that you make maximum, you interact, collaborate, and this platform gives you more number of opportunities that you are looking for. And again, thank you so much, and we'll see you around. Okay, thank you.